Alright, David Harry here, and this video is one of 3 preliminary videos that I did today. So the other 2 will follow probably shortly. Now, if you want to know what I mean by a preliminary video or a preliminary test, there'll be a link here taking you to a video which will explain to you everything that you need to know about what I mean by a preliminary test. But needless to say, this is just pure hardcore testing of a something before I get on to, like, you know, do a full video about it. Now, in this instance, I've been out today and done 3 sets of tests for 3 microphone modifications and builds that I do myself. And quite specifically, this first one is for what I call a wind mic. And very specifically, I'm doing this one so I can play it to a YouTube friend of mine who is Robert John Kerr. Now, there'll be a link here to Robert's channel. There'll be one at the end and one in the descriptions. Go and check out Robert's stuff. It's ace. I actually talk a bit more to Robert during the video. In fact, as I'm talking now, I'll do this like it's one-to-one because it probably really is. So anyway, Robert, this is one of my microphones which I call a wind mic. So that's it there. And what it is, it's literally just a really good omni capsule on a little mic system, then encased with the deadcat off a RODE VideoMicro, like that. Now, the only thing is this particular one is a TS on the end. It's a TS socket, not TRS, which is fine. All you got to do when you record with this one, you just recenter the left channel. That's it. It's exactly the same as going out with the TRS, but with the TRS, what happens there, you are normalizing left and right together. So in post, you don't have to center anything. All I do with this one is just center it. I actually do another version of this, which is TRS. I just couldn't find it right now. This one was actually designed for a different system, which only requires a TS input, but does work exactly the same anyway on the GoPro. So anyway, Robbie, that there affords you a ton of wind protection. Now, the only problem here is that obviously you want to go out the smallest way possible, and we've both agreed that's defo the way to do it. Now, if you went out with your GoPro as it is like that, and I don't know if I don't think I've got any of my wind slayers to hand here. Oh, actually, hold on. Right. So there's with that, make sure I don't hit the microphone. So there's a wind slayer. So obviously you could just throw a wind slayer over that, which is what you've already done, Robert. And I thought it sounded great. And the best bit was it kept it tiny, kept the system really small, which is absolutely important, especially for what you've got coming up as well, where you're going to do your coast to coast, and you know, spaces of a premium. But even that aside, you know, people just don't be lugging tons of stuff and all the rest of it. So obviously that setup there is ace with a foam on. Only problem is, you're probably in certain windy environments or conditions, you may not get enough reduction, in which case something like that definitely will be better. Now, also to keep the size down, another one of Dave's famous mic interface hacks, which no one seems to like. Right, so what you do, grab the thing like that, and then flip it round to the back of the camera like that. Let's just see if we can get this in. What it is, this isn't gonna probably focus properly. Let's see, might get some sense. There we go. So just twist it around the back like that. And then I'm just using a hairband here. But just use a rubber band, hairband, whatever, and just do that. Yeah, see? Just literally grab it round the side or around the back like that. Now, when it's like that, you're obviously gonna be covering, you know, the screen on the back, but you've got the camera, you know, that way anyway. It doesn't matter, you're not going to see the screen. And then get the little wind mic, pop it in the top like that, and there you go. Now, I know that might look a bit bulky and whatnot, but it isn't. The weight of this microphone is tiny and whatnot. Anyways, that's what it looks like. I've explained basically what the prelim's for. So anyway, Robert, what I'm going to do now is kick into some dialogue with this that I went out and done earlier on. So just, yeah, sit back and relax, Robert. Okay, so to the test outdoors then. And like I say, you know, this video, as much as what it's a prelim for me, because I've not actually tested it exactly like this before. I have tested this microphone, you know, in different configurations, but not exactly like this before. But once again, although it is a prelim, I'm very specifically doing this for Robert anyway. So hopefully, Robert, you know, there's something in here which, you know, might tickle your fancy, shall we say. Now, what I've done here, because I do appreciate what you're trying to do, is keep your system as small as possible, and that is absolutely right. I mean, you know, if I could get myself, you know, any action cam that had decent picture and good stabilization, but had brilliant internal microphones, I'd be all over it all day long. I wouldn't bother with external mics. Now, the only thing with that is, you know, the chances are, even when you find something that's got a decent mic on it, it's an omni mic, which for me personally isn't really that cool, because a lot of what I do, you know, kind of revolves around noisy places, you know, and I like to go into town and film things and whatnot, you know, when I'm out and about with me mates and stuff, you know, out having a drink and going mad and things like that, basically. So for me personally, a cardioid is defo a better option, you know, because of the acoustic environment and all the other sounds and all that kind of stuff. But for the likes of Robert though, you know, it's like, you know, what Robert's doing. I am speaking to you, Robert, but hopefully there's other people listening here, so I'm going to explain a bit about what you do, if you don't mind. It's a bit mad trying to talk to somebody in mind, but knowing that there's other people going to be watching this stuff, hopefully. Yeah, so basically what Robert does, he goes out and does some really cool vlogs out in the wildernesses in like the north of England and stuff like that, and he really does do some amazing stuff where he gives you a very good idea of the environments where he is and all the rest of it, you know, the types of places where he is, you know, whether he's by the canals or just out on like the windy moors somewhere, you know, some barren, bleak, weird place and stuff like that. He goes out and does all these things, and the brilliance, and what drew me to what Robert does is the fact that he's so enthusiastic about it as well, so you kind of just get drawn into his vlogs without realising it, and next minute you're a big Robert fan. But what happens is, obviously where Robert goes, it's it can be very windy, and you know, so it kind of taxes the audio in a different way than maybe what you would do in different environments, because when you're right out in the open in places, you are subject to like the way wind will gather across, like, you know, just open plain and stuff like that. Also, because Robert's scenario doesn't necessarily require a cardioid, because his dialogue isn't trying to compete against like cars or other people, or he, you know, because he's not going to be in a city centre and stuff. This is where an Omni actually works to be really good. And you know, if I didn't do the stuff that I do, or the environments that I typically record in, I would choose an Omni, only because Omnis tend to have a better sound. They tend to have more of a fuller frequency sound as well, so you know, they tend to be a bit more richer sounding and whatnot. Anyway, yeah, so for Robert, I think the use of an Omni is great for his surroundings that he's normally in, but obviously that requires a lot of protection as well because of the potential of wind, hence the wind mic. So basically, yeah, you know, I've tried this mic in a massive big windy day, but on a different camera, and it did really well. It obviously picks up wind, because wind sound is sound. You know, a microphone picks up sound, so if the wind is making a sound, of course the microphone is going to pick it up. But it's wind distortion which is the problem, which can be like wind seeping in and hitting the capsule, and then basically just distorting the capsule because there's too much pressure on the capsule. Or it could even be when it's really fast wind and you've got like protection, there could be a pressure differential between where the mic is sitting inside a case or something and the outside. That will also cause a distortion due to pressure differentials and stuff like that. So basically the whole thing is to try and get as clean a recording when it is dead windy, or as clean a recording as possible. Hence why deadcats and the likes. So like I said, I'm just trying to differentiate here between the fact that wind makes its own sound and microphones pick up sound. So you're not going to wipe the wind sound out, because if you're wiping out the wind sound, the microphone will be wiping out every other sound with it as well. It's wind distortion, and like, you know, it's interference with the capsule in a number of ways that it can do it, is what you're trying to get rid of when you're using, like, you know, effective wind filtering. So anyways, to the bottom line, is this working? I just feel like I'm going to start rabbiting on like a big lunatic here. And plus this is a prelim, and then what I'll do, I'll defo get out and try this out on another day anyway. I'll go down to the pierhead, which is our riverfront, when it's proper windy, and because that'll definitely give it a really good test. But despite the fact that it's not being mega windy right now, there's been the odd breeze that's hit it, which definitely would distort without something on, and would probably distort other microphones, or even the same microphone with a lesser dead cat on it. Okay, so that'll probably sum it, I think, for this. Oh yeah, no, sorry, the last thing is, what this take will definitely have done though is give us a really good idea as to the tonal quality, because that's the other thing as well. There's no point in having a recording where you manage to avoid all the wind, but your dialogue sounds like a sack of shit. Do you know what I mean? That's just not gonna be, basically you'd be trading one bad thing for another one. So how is the audio? Oh, and on this one as well, I've gone in at standard as well. I've not gone in on the plus mode because this particular capsule does not require that, and it will start over compressing or over limiting. I dare say right now I've probably already got a very healthy signal going in anyway. So on that point as well, very last test, what we're hearing right now is the level as it's gone in, because I don't think I've done this so far through this little blurb. So this is the level as it's gone in, and then this is now the process level. I don't know how big or not that difference will be, because I don't know what this level's like yet. But that process level is just me resumming up a bit of ceiling limiting just to get it so it doesn't peak over zero, and give it a nice, like, fairly healthy output so that it doesn't sound too quiet on YouTube. Anyway, back to Dave indoors. There you go then, Robert. What do you think of that? Or in fact, anybody else who may have seen the video, what did you think of it? How did it sound? And what did you think of how much wind it was knocking out? I mean, in that particular video there, it was basically 100% knocked out of the breeze. I have to admit it wasn't mad windy, although at certain times it did gust up a fair bit, or gust up to a point where it definitely would have ruined the takes if the mic hadn't been covered, or dare to say, if it was on, you know, a lesser system with a smaller kind of dead cat arrangement or something, definitely would have been distorting. That didn't. So I think on that basis, yeah, you know, it definitely works. What did you think of the tone of it as well? Now, bear in mind also, though, in that environment there, although it's in a park, that park is flanked by 2 dual carriageways, and you can always hear that in the background in that park. So that's not like being out in the wilds where you don't even contend with like that noise in the background, you know what I mean, of cars. In the wilds, you're basically only really dealing with maybe wind. You might have animal sounds and stuff like that, nature sounds, but that's great. But at least you don't kind of get bothered by all that stuff that I do when I'm out and about. So even in a park where you might think, oh yeah, the park's dead nice and, you know, it's a nice tranquil area, unfortunately, you know, it is flanked by a load of noise of traffic and whatnot. So that will be in the background of the recordings. It's an Omni microphone, it does that. In fact, on a couple of the other prelims that I've just done, I'm using one of my little tiny like modifications for a cardioid mic as well. I have a powered one, a self-powered one that is, and then one that gets powered by the camera. And I actually do a test in the same area at the park where I turn the cardioid towards where the traffic is and then away from it, and you can clearly hear a drop off on it. So unfortunately, with that type of environment, yeah, an Omni is going to pick up all that stuff that's rumbling in the distance. Whereas if you're out in the sticks somewhere, or out in the wilds, or on a nice nature trail, or dare to say down by the beach or something, because where this would probably really come into play, and I will do a heavy test on this down at the riverfront when it's dead windy one day. I'll shoot out and just do like a really quick video just to show how effective it is. But a mic like this would probably be really good down like at a beach, like, you know, on beaches and things, you know, where you definitely are going to have like a constant bit of wind constantly going on. Or like I say, it'd be great out in, like, you know, more kind of like, you know, in nature environments where, you know, the only thing you might contend with is wind, and that's mostly what it's designed for. So sonically, how did it sound? Was it okay? Did the dialogue come across all right? And did that rumbling traffic in the background get picked up okay? Anyway, Robert, and anybody who may have watched this, I'm going to just carry on talking gibberish if I don't shoot off. So I'm going to get off now anyway. So I'm David Harry. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.